YouTube. Today in the Naughty Librarian, I am doing my mid-May wrap-up. This whole first half of May has just been like up and down and up and down. I have read 6 books so far, and some were really great, and some were not. But like, it really falls in those 2 categories. I didn't really read anything that was just kind of meh. Everything was like, wow, I really like this, or wow, I really don't like this. So it was just, you know, a couple weeks of extremes. But anyway, let's just get into what books I've been reading lately. Let's do some reviewing. Let's go. First category is fantasy retellings, and I read 2 of them. First things first, let's start off with Legendborn by Tracy Deonn. I want to start off with this book because hot damn was this phenomenal. Oh my word. Like, that's what I said when I closed the book. I finished the book, I closed it, and I was like, that was phenomenal. It blew me away. I'm in love with it. I'm obsessed with it. I'd marry it if I could. Legendborn is a Arthurian legend retelling kind of situation, and we're following this young woman. Her name's Bree Matthews. She gets accepted to like this early college admissions thing. So she's technically still high school age, but she's in college doing college stuff. She's real smart. And she decides to do that because she kind of needs a fresh start. Her mother just died, and she's like, I just need to be somewhere else. So she goes there, and then weird things start happening on this campus. So there's like a dash of dark academia just from the start. All of a sudden, there's demons and shit. Uh-oh. And of course, you know, they have to have like a secret organization. What's it called? Like a secret society. Yes, there you go. A secret society full of people who hunt these demons. And the secret society is actually based off of the Arthurian legend with Arthur and his Knights of the Round Table. And except in this setting, through magic and spells and curses, maybe? I don't know. These knights can be reborn essentially in like an avatar. So like these kids are like descendants of those knights, and the knight can like inhabit their body as like an avatar kind of thing. So great concept, love it intensely. But the thing that makes this book really work well is just the subtle nuances in here. Oh my gosh, Bree is just so well thought out of a character, and I love it. Bree, as you can see on the cover, Bree is a woman of color, and she is living in the South. So there are a lot of unique situations she finds herself in, and how she has to deal with twice as much shit as everybody else. So it does deal with issues of race, of sexism, of dark academia, of demons, and like reincarnation, and King Arthur, and Merlin, and there's wizards. Like, it's got everything I wanted in one thing. Seriously, like, it's so fucking good. It's gonna make my best of the year list. Like, it's amazing. Please go read this. 5 stars. It's incredible. You will not be disappointed. I also read Lost in the Neverwoods by Aidan Thomas, and this is kind of a dark modern day retelling of Peter Pan. Already? Tell me no more. I'm very interested. In this one, we're following Wendy in particular, and when Wendy was a kid, like 12, 13 years old, she was kidnapped, and her 2 brothers. So her and her 2 brothers were in the woods, and they never came out. And then 6 months later, when they found Wendy, but they had never found her brothers. And Wendy, understandably, has a lot of trauma involved in that, and she has this huge gap in her memory. She cannot remember what happened. And one day, they start hearing reports that were oddly similar to what she and her brothers experienced. So now other kids are going missing, and so the police are involved, and they're asking questions and stuff, and she doesn't have any memories. And so, things just really come to a head when she's driving home one night, and she's like, oh shit, there's a body in the road, and she swerves to miss the body. Turns out, this guy wakes up, and he's like, Wendy, and she's like, oh shit, and it's Peter. It's Peter fucking Pan, guys. He's real. He's laying in the street. There's some crazy things happening in the forest. So that's just like a basic idea of what the story is, but the book is a lot more than that. It is kind of a bit a moody book about feelings. It's kind of more about dealing with trauma and relearning who you are. So it has like a lot of layers that it's using this Peter Pan setting and characters and tropes to explain. So well done. It's a great extended metaphor. I think I gave it like 4.5 stars because I did really like it and I liked what it was doing. The prose is fantastic. I had a great time with this. I just wish it got to the point faster. Like there are some pacing issues where you're just like, okay, something's happening. They're getting a lot of stuff done, and then they stop the chapter and go do something else. And it's just like, oh my gosh, you were blue balling me this whole book. I think if the book didn't give me blue balls, like I would have really like this would have been a 5-star favorite of the year list type of thing. But like it just had some pacing problems. But if you get over that, it's fantastic. It's really, really good. Like Aidan Thomas is like, I've only read one other book by this author. Well, this author only has one other book, but it was so good. I pre-ordered this with, sight unseen. And I think whatever Aidan Thomas decides to write next, I will also pre-order. This is gonna be an auto-buy-author for me. They're just always great. Next category is romance. I only read one of them, and that was Waiting for a Scot Like You by Eva Lee. And I have really, really enjoyed this series. It's called The Union of the Rakes, and they're all kind of based on 80s movies. So if you like 80s movies and you like historical romance, this is its baby. You know what? Waiting for a Scot Like You, I think it's my favorite of the series. This one is kind of like, if you're a fan of Ferris Bueller's Day Off, Footloose, an older woman, younger man trope, and also like a really well done brat tamer relationship, like you are going to love this. That's basically it. If you've ever seen Ferris Bueller's Day Off and you secretly wanted Ferris and Cameron to kiss, like all your dreams are gonna come true here. So this is about Lady Ferris. She is a widow. She is living her life. She's an older woman. She's like in her, I think her mid to late 40s. She's living her life. She's stuck in an unhappy marriage for a long time. She's like, I'm going to Scotland because I'm going to an orgy. Like, that's how this book starts. And then you have Major Duncan McCameron, and he's very much like a very uptight Scottish guy, and he's a major. He was in the military for a long time, and his friend is like married to one of her friends, and he's like, hey, why don't you go to Scotland, like escort her, because it's not safe for a lady to be traveling by herself up to Scotland, like go with her, like go be bodyguard stuff. And he's like, fine. And of course, she's the Ferris to his Cameron, and they are kind of very bickery at times. She's a lot to deal with, and he's just like, oh my gosh, all the time. And then you start getting into the spicy bits. Like, this book is particularly spicy in a good way. It kind of does get into a very specific type of light BDSM relationship. So Lady Ferris is definitely very opinionated and like wants to be put in her place a little bit. So she's definitely a brat. And then you have Major McCameron, who needs to tame brats. So it's that relationship, but done exquisitely well. So it's not like, like, ooh, I need to hurt people because I like doing pain stuff. It's more just like they're exploring their sexualities, and it's not like done in a look how weird this is kind of way. It's just done in a healthy way, which is a very subtle contrast to a lot of other books I feel that fall into the BDSM category that don't do it correctly. Like, it should be more about, healthy sexual habits, and these two people are grown adults, fully consenting, wildly consenting, and like just having a ball. So it's very spicy, but in a good way. I think it's well handled. And it's funny, and it's 80 movies, historical romance, and just they're banging the bejesus out of each other. It's got everything I want. I had a really good time with it, like 4.5 stars, whatever, I liked it. I also read one sci-fi book, and that was Fugitive Telemetry by Martha Wells. This is the latest in the Murderbot series, and hot damn do I love Murderbot. I feel like I never shut up about Murderbot. I know I've talked about this before, but in case you haven't seen those videos, Murderbot is a series about the titular Murderbot. And this is a robot who has sentience, And it basically was built to be a security guard, a security unit type of thing. And they hacked their own governing module, so now they don't have to listen to humans if they don't want, except Murderbot doesn't go around murdering everybody. They really just want to be left alone to watch their shows, you know? Like, we can relate. In this story in particular is another Murderbot adventure, because Murderbot always has to deal with people, and like people are just like the worst. So in this one in particular, they're going through kind of a murder mystery. This is kind of like a gumshoe detective story, but with murder robots. So already, I think that should be infinitely fascinating to everybody right now. Gumshoe mystery with murder robots. Like, tell me you don't want to read that. I had a blast. It's a really quick read. I mean, it's the novella. I think it's like a little over 100-something pages. Yeah, no, it's like a little under 200 pages. It's really short. And it's a gumshoe detective story. There's a dead human. Who killed this human? They gotta figure it out. And they're like going around finding clues and stuff. So it was like a fun, like, kind of like detective story with Murderbot, because I mean Murderbot has gotten into a lot of situations where they have to figure some shit out, but this is like the first real murder mystery, you know? So I had a lot of fun with it. It's hilarious, it's sarcastic, it's campy, it's got everything I want. It's great. 5 stars. This last category is How Very Dare You, and I read 2 of them. I attempted to read Second First Impressions by Sally Thorne, and frankly, it's a DNF. I read literally 80% of this book and just skimmed the rest. I could not be bothered to give a fuck. And here's the thing, this is Sally Thorne's 3rd book, and I've read her other 2 books, enjoyed both of them for very different reasons. So I'm like going into this one going, this is gonna be great. And hot damn, this is just drivel. Like, literally, like, if you look up the definition of drivel, they should just put the picture of this book. It's just straight drivel. It's so bad that, like, I was confused. So you have this woman, Ruthie. She was basically just, she's the pastor's kid. So she was just raised very sheltered and very churchy. And now Ruthie is grown up and she manages this retirement community, and in comes Teddy, and he's like the most gorgeous guy with long hair, and he rides a motorcycle, and he gets there because his dad like actually owns the property, and he's like, Teddy's useless, like he has to have a job here for a bit. And she's like, okay. So she's like, hey, sassy old ladies, Teddy, he's gonna be your assistant. And so that's the premise here of their romance. And the thing is, I do not understand how they are attracted to each other. Like, don't get me wrong, like I get Teddy's physical appeal, the long hair, the motorcycle, the bad boy thing. Like, I get it, the aesthetic, but their personalities are both so bland, and like I don't really understand why he's so obsessed with her. Unless he has like a mommy kink where he's just like, ooh, I just want someone to tuck me in at night. Like, I don't understand the attraction or the relationship, and like why he has wild boners for this lady. Like, she is just, she wants to be sexual and like have these experiences, but she doesn't really know how. And you know, she dresses like she's 80. And not that to say that the can't be sexy to people, but it's just, it's written in a way that we're not supposed to think Ruthie is sexy, because that's the whole point of her story arc. So it's like, I don't get it. I mean, I gave this 2 stars, and the main reason I gave it 2 stars because there was 2 sassy old ladies I liked. 1 star for each of them. That's why it's got any stars at all, because I like those 2 sassy old ladies. They are shining stars of gems in this book. And then their relationship is just drivel. Like, okay, I know not all of my subscribers are in America or have seen every TV show in the world, but back in the early 2000s, there was this show in America called Seventh Heaven. It was basically a show about the pastor's family, and it was very churchy. And it feels like an episode of that, frankly. And then she's also like a super fan of a show that's exactly Seventh Heaven. What? How? How are you making fun of Seventh Heaven and yet you are Seventh Heaven? How very dare you? I'm just baffled by it. It occasionally had a moment that I thought was cute, but it's straight drivel. Like, it's not, I don't even think Sally Thorne likes this. Like, the way it's written, it's just like, it's just bad. It's just bad. Like, none of the, like, conversations these people have with each other are at all natural. None of the characters are developed. They don't have, like, real personalities that aren't, like, cartoonish. What happened? Like, I'm so disappointed. And this was a pre-order. I was way into this. And it's just terrible. The other book I happened to DNF was The Lost Apothecary by Sarah Penner. Now, I know a lot of people did enjoy this book, and like there are parts of it that are enjoyable, but for the most part, I didn't care about any of it. This is a story and it's taking place in 2 different time periods, and both these stories are kind of connected in a way. So you have Nella, who is like, this is like the early 1700s. This is during like the apothecary murders, which is like what drew me to this book in the first place, because, you know, there was a lot of like lady apothecaries in this era who would sell cosmetics that were secretly husband poison. And I was like really into reading about that story. And then there's also this modern day story with this woman, Caroline, and that's just more like, I don't know, like just contemporary drama, I guess. Like she finds out her husband's cheating on her, so she goes to England, and then she finds this little like bottle in the Thames, and she's like, oh, let's look up where this bottle came from. And it was like an old apothecary bottle. So she's like doing this big history project. She's like, ooh, let's like research the history of this and like deal with her cheating husband and like personal growth. And then they would cut back and forth in time periods and like, go back to what Nella's dealing with, and like, why are there 2 time periods? That was my biggest question. It's like, this is 2 books that are trying to be 1 book, and it doesn't work. Just write 1 book or the other book. They don't need to touch. I don't get it. Why it's set up this way? Like, you could have just written a book about apothecary murders, or you could write a book about this woman in modern times, and she's just researching this like historical event. You don't have to tell me the historical event with it, because I feel like telling 2 different stories at the same time diminishes both stories. It doesn't make either story better. Especially it doesn't make the historical one any better, because they don't know anything about this Caroline lady in the future. They don't give no fucks about her. Caroline's the only one who cares about these people in the past. Why are there 2 stories here? And also, I didn't find Caroline all that likable. Like, I sympathize with her. Like, your husband cheated on her. Like, I get it, girl, you could do better. Whole thing. But, like, I don't really like the message they were sending. Like, maybe this is a realistic thing that some people go through. And, I mean, maybe it's somewhat of a complicated situation where in the book, like, I feel Caroline is just kind of like, well, you know, there's a lot of marriages that have a problem with infidelity and then they get over it, and there's kind of this like tone that maybe they're gonna get back together still, and I'm like, are you? Like, what growth was this? Just because you're gonna take a break for a minute and go to school and then go get back with your cheating husband? Like, I don't get it. Like, there's nothing in this book I get. A lot of ideas being thrown together and it doesn't work, and 2 stories at the same time diminishes both. So there you go. I read 50% in earnest, and then I skimmed the rest because I could not be bothered. But how very dare you? This is another book I was really excited about, and it just disappointed me. I know a lot of people liked it, and if you liked it, I'm happy for you. I really wanted to like this. No one's more disappointed than myself. Alright, so that's a quick little wrap up of all the stuff I've been reading. And basically, I liked 2/3 of the books I read. Thumbs up! I had a good time with those 4 books. And those other 2 that just were just not pleasant to be around. Really, 2 DNFs in 2 weeks? Like, that's a lot of DNFing to do. And I was just unhappy about it. Let me know in the comments down below. I don't know, what have you been reading lately? Have you had any disappointments? Or did you pre-order something going, this is going to be great, and then you're like, oh no, it's terrible. What was an unpleasant surprise you had? Or, hey, what's the opposite? What's a book you're like, nah, I'm not going to like this, and then you really, really liked it? Let me know in the comments down below. If you like this video, make sure you give it a like. And if you want to see more videos, make sure you subscribe. And I'll see you guys soon. Bye-bye.